Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Brian with Retired at 40, Live Life Simple. And this week we are back in the kitchen because we are gonna freeze dry some taters. Potatoes are one of those things that if you are a gardener, you probably end up with a whole bunch of them once a year or maybe a couple times a year. So today we're gonna do the 4 most common ways that you would use potatoes, especially if you were trying to get rid of them. We're gonna do that coming up. So I always like to do things in groups of 4 on my videos because I have a medium freeze dryer and there just happens to be 4 trays. So today we're freeze drying potatoes 4 different ways. We're gonna do some raw potatoes, just cubed, and then we're gonna try and reconstitute them raw. We're also gonna do everyone's favorite, some freeze dried mashed potatoes and gravy. We're also gonna try some freeze-dried potato salad. Wouldn't it be cool if you could just take some freeze-dried potato salad with you wherever you went with no refrigerator? We're also gonna try some cheesy, easy scalloped potatoes. I'm gonna start off with my mashed potatoes because they're gonna take the longest. I like to leave the skins on my potatoes. Obviously it's a personal preference, but there's a lot more nutrition when you leave the skins on things. And I kind of like the texture a little bit better when the skins are on. And really what I'm hoping happens when we freeze dry the potatoes, I'm hoping that we can get basically like an instant mashed potato like you would buy in the store, kind of the potato flakes. Also notice that I'm using a cutting board this time because I was scolded by so many people last time. They saw me cutting on the countertops. Okay, we'll get these going and then we'll work on our easy cheesy scalloped potatoes. For our scalloped potatoes, we just need 6 yellow potatoes, and I'm actually going to use a food processor to slice mine, and then you're going to want to go into a casserole dish like this. And you want to make sure that if this is oiled, it's lightly oiled. You want as little as oil as possible. So the first thing you want to do is put your oven on 400 before we get started. And these are going to be in layers, so you kind of want to divide everything by 4. Just cover the bottom of your pan. We're going to do 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. Then you're going to want a clove of garlic on each layer, followed by 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese on each layer, and then 1/8 teaspoon of salt on each layer. So on my last layer, I used 1/2 cup instead of 1/4 cup. And then these are just going to go into the oven for about an hour until all the potatoes are cooked all the way through. So our mashed potatoes are done. Those just need mashed. Those will just take a second. The gravy, I'm actually going to put in these silicone molds, and we're going to make kind of a gravy ice cube before we freeze them. It'll just help keep things separated on the tray and keep things kind of organized. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw these in the deep freeze because they will probably take the longest to freeze. Our mashed potatoes are going to go onto a silicone liner, which we just started selling at freezedryingsupplies.com because I've got a feeling that these are really going to stick to the bottom bad. I'll put a link to our store across the screen here, and then I'll put one down in the description as well. For our raw potatoes, I just went ahead and put them through the food processor again, and then we're going to throw these in some boiling hot water real quick just to blanch them. So just a quick bath for the raw potatoes, and then I'm going to rinse them off and we'll be ready for the tray. So when we blanch these, we're not trying to cook them, we're just trying to keep them from browning and getting kind of ugly like potatoes do sometimes if they sit out. Those look really good. I got my fingers crossed on those. While we're waiting for our scalloped potatoes, I'm going to do our potato salad. And I don't have a recipe for you today. This is just a store-bought potato salad. And this is going onto our pre-cut parchment paper that we also have at freezedryingsupplies.com. We're really trying to make the freeze drying process as easy, or I should say easier, than it already is. And if you ever have any ideas or constructive criticism for us, please let us know. We really like freeze drying and we really want to help the freeze drying community grow and make things as easy as possible. All right, our scalloped potatoes are done. They're ready for this last tray, and I'm going to give you one last shameless plug on the store. We have these tray stackers too, and I'll show you why these are so handy. This is just one small shelf in my deep freeze. and I can get 4 trays. I can actually get 6 under here, and if I didn't have the gravy over here, I could get probably 20 trays just in this little area. So I'm gonna finish up my freeze and then I'll see you in a little bit at the freeze dryer. All right, we are frozen, solid, and ready for action. And I added on my gravy cubes. Hopefully they will fit on, yep, they slide right in there. So we're good to go. Hopefully this is a quick cycle because I'm getting ready to go out of town. And I'm doing pre-frozen. And while we're waiting for that, take a minute to subscribe to the channel. I've noticed that there is just a huge surge in new freeze dryers. I think the whole COVID thing has brought to people's attention how important it is to have some food storage and how important it is to be prepared for the unknown. And whether you're a new freeze dryer or an old freeze dryer, you really need to take advantage of all your information sources. So we've created a Facebook group and a MeWe group just to get like-minded people together and share the information that just goes hand in hand with freeze drying. So do yourself a favor and join one of those groups. Click subscribe to this channel and click the bell to get notifications. We release a video every Sunday. We'll see you in a minute. So our machine says it's done, 21 hours and 22 minutes. I'm gonna give these a quick check and then we're gonna run them upstairs. So I think they're done, but I'm not totally confident. They still feel a little bit cool on the inside, so just to be safe, I'm gonna add about 4 more hours. So I've been out of town for a few days and I packaged these in Mylar, and I'm curious to see what happened with, especially the potato salad. I don't think it was all the way done. So I'm gonna heat up some water and then we will get to reconstituting. So normally I wouldn't rush this. If I had the intention of storing this for a long time, I would really make sure that it was done. Yeah, I can already tell that there was just a little bit of moisture in this potato salad. It was really, really close to done, but just a little bit cold in the center. But I'm gonna add some cold water to this because I don't think I want warm potato salad. And I really can't think of any other way to rehydrate this than just putting straight water right onto it. It looks like it's soaking in the water really nice though. So I'm gonna let that hang out for a second and give it time to absorb some of that water, and we'll move on. And we'll move on to the scalloped potatoes. The scalloped potatoes I'm gonna go right onto the bamboo steamer with, because I don't really want them to get soggy. I want them to kind of stay in that same form that they were. So to get this bamboo steamer going, they just go onto the bamboo steamer over the top of a pot full of water. And it's just gonna rehydrate them real slow with some steam. So our raw potatoes, I guess it would probably depend on what you were gonna use them for as to how you rehydrate them. I'm just gonna put some hot water straight onto them because I think that if that works, then just about anything will. They might get a little bit soggy by doing that, but I think if you were pan frying them afterwards or putting them in some kind of dish, you could definitely crisp them back up again. The mashed potatoes, I think we'll do the same way because ideally these mashed potatoes are gonna be just like instant mashed potatoes, and then you'll have instant gravy as well. And these mashed potatoes are just sucking up water like crazy. One thing that I did that I shouldn't have done, I was just in such a hurry, is I kind of intermingled the gravy and the potatoes, and I'm kind of getting both in here. I have a little bit set off to the side of gravy that I haven't mixed up yet that I was able to separate. The cool thing that I'm seeing about the mashed potatoes right now is everyone kind of has a different texture preference on mashed potatoes, and you can definitely change that by the amount of water that you add back in. But I'm actually gonna let these sit for a second because I can still see that there's parts that need to rehydrate. I'm gonna set that aside. I'll mix up my gravy, and then I'm gonna check on my potato salad. And I thought for sure that this potato salad was just gonna be a mushy mess, but it turned out really good. Which means you could take this anywhere without refrigeration, as long as you freeze dry it long enough, like I forgot to do. but it's really good. You'd never know the difference. Our raw potatoes are doing really well. I would call these a total win. These are exactly the way they were when we put them in. They were just lightly blanched and just a little bit bendy. And they're exactly how you want them to be. They're still 90% raw, and you could do really just anything with them at this point. Well, it looks like our scalloped potatoes are not doing great in the bamboo steamer. The bamboo steamer is real particular on what works with it and what doesn't, but it looks like these are not going to work. Maybe I'll just throw them in a pan and see if we can pan fry them. I think really what these need is just a soak and then a really slow burn for like 5 or 10 minutes. So while we're waiting for the scalloped potatoes, we'll do our mashed potatoes. And our mashed potatoes are pretty good. I would call them like 95%. The texture is there, other than there's a little bit of, I think if you wanted them perfectly smooth, I think that they would have to be kind of whipped again. It just seems like there's a few little specks in there where there's just kind of maybe like a chunk of potato or something. And a little bit with the gravy, I think with time, if you mixed it enough, it would smooth out. And I've also got some potato skins mixed in there because I made the mistake of mixing it in the bag with the potatoes. I would call that a total win. Look at that. That's good enough to eat in a zombie apocalypse Thanksgiving, I think. It's good. Well, I cooked off the water in here, and I think it's going to be really difficult to get the same look and probably the same texture because of the cheese and stuff of the scalloped potatoes. But I've got a feeling they taste good, they just don't look as appealing as they did before. The taste is totally there. And really the texture is there too. So I wonder what would happen if you threw this in an air fryer. So I use a whole arsenal of stuff when I'm rehydrating, and really just in my kitchen in general, but an air fryer is kind of like a mini convection oven. So I'm wondering if we can get some crisp back. All right, these have been in for about 10 minutes now. And now we're talking. I hear some sizzle. Looks like we got some crispiness on the top. I think that is a winner. Can we possibly be 4 for 4 today? We did it. The cheese even got crispy. That's awesome. Obviously, depending on the situation, you might not be able to rehydrate them that way, but man, those are good. Those are as good as when they came out of the oven. 4 for 4 today. That hardly ever happens. Potatoes are a total winner. Those mashed potatoes would be a super quick rehydration, no matter what the situation was, for emergency food or camping or just food storage in general. In the meantime, I'm going to make these scalloped potatoes disappear real quick. Remember to live life simple. We'll catch you next week.